Aeelah.
Let me tell you about the Higher Self Expo July 2021. It's a 24-hour event with 33 guest speakers who are sharing their wisdom and exploring the connection between science and spirituality. Today's guest is a guest speaker at this event. To register your place and find out more, go to www.higherselfexpo.com. Hello. So we've got 5 people watching and we're late and it's all my fault. And so can I just first of all apologize for the latitude today on this sleepy Sunday? But we're not sleepy, are we, Tania? So,
Not at all.
Hi, everyone. It's Louisa Tanner Munson from Feel Good Astrology. And I'm here today with a beautiful divine guest who I work with as frequently as I can because it's such a joy. It's Tania Castillo, and she's also known as T.C Aeelah. Now, I always pronounce this wrong, and so I'm really glad for a steer from my good pal. So please let us know, if you're listening, where you're from, who you are, and also about how you have gone to trust, or how you've gone beyond proof to trust, because that's the topic of today's discussion. So we are looking at going beyond proof to trust, and I love this. What a fantastic title. So Tania, welcome to another session with us. Where do we start? Where would you like to start today?
Oh, well, really, as usual, I have no idea, but it will just flow through.
May I suggest you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay.
This is also in light of the Higher Self Expo that's coming up in July, on the 17th and 18th of July, which has got 33 guest speakers across pretty much the whole world, and it's arranged by continent, and you are the host, or one of the hosts, for the European tour part of it. So how did you come to be involved in the Higher Self Expo? First of all, let's get this out of the way.
Right. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much, Louisa, for this Sunday afternoon brilliant experience together. That we sort of came to this state all of a sudden. So it's a beautiful co-creation here. And so the Higher Self Expo came my way through Karen Swain from ATP Media, Australia. And she had already spoken with me, and we'd already interacted and had an interview and all of that. And Zane Daniel, the creator of the Higher Self Expo from the US, had been in touch with Karen because she'd also been a guest speaker at the previous Higher Self Expos. This is going to be the 4th one. Each one has had a theme. This one is where science meets spirituality. And so Zane had this fantastic idea of, okay, so this time let's go 24 hours straight all around the world. So he wanted someone from Europe. And then Karen just put us in touch, and that's where it all happened. And as soon as I got the invitation, I felt it's such a smooth, beautiful creation, something so expansive, really a gift for me, a gift for all of the speakers, and a gift for everyone who will be tuning in during the event, or even at a later date, because it will remain available. So I immediately said yes. Wow, what an honor! It was a wonderful thing. And then I invited a co-host, because we're 2 in each of the streams for the US, South America, all of that area, that time zone. It's Zane Daniel and Geraldine Orozco. And then here in Europe, me and Rui Vasquez from Live with Earth project. And in Australia, Karen Swain and Nicholas. Can't remember his last name, but
is it?
Nicholas Perrin. That's it. Exactly. And it's been so seamless and smooth the way things have just unfolded. Really wonderful experience to be a part of this team and also to be speaking at the Higher Self Expo. So thank you to the whole Higher Self Expo experience and Zane in particular.
Yeah, it's a very magical thing to be going on, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
I remain excited about the whole potential of it. It's amazing, and such great people that we're meeting along the way.
Yeah.
Now this is an opportunity for you to tell the audience, who I'm sure a lot of people here in this live will know a lot about you anyway, but this is an opportunity for you to say, why do you think they wanted you as a host? Because you're an author,
yeah.
speaker, a keynote speaker.
Well, because Karen, as I said, had already interviewed me, and so somehow she felt connected and felt that I was up for the job. But it was a sensing thing, really. It wasn't because they were. Of course, Karen was in light of my curriculum, but I'm sure she didn't go that way because of it. And right. Zane really didn't want to know about my qualifications in a sense. He just felt and sensed. So it's all about going beyond proof to trust and really trusting. Actually, I am quite good for this because I'm in tune with organizing events. I'm an organizer. I am also very comfortable with speaking in public, as I speak usually at other events, and of course also live on stage, and now we're on the online platforms. And I am a natural collaborator, so for me collaborations is the name of my game. So I have loads of collaborations. And when I had my first meeting with Zane, it was interesting because I said, Zane, I just like to make something very clear right from the start. I'm only going to really be a part of this thing if it's not going to be about rushing and about stressing out over having a lot of audience and a lot of marketing and all of that stuff. Because really in my life, I choose to flow in ease and grace, and anything that is not in tune with that is simply not going to be a part of it. But I did feel we were very in tune, and Zane immediately said, yeah, oh yeah, no worries about that, because I'm also like that, you know.
That's fantastic. And I think that's a really good answer. I really love actually how, you know, when you were thinking about how or why Karen chose you or suggested you to be the European host or one of the European hosts, was because they went beyond their own truth and trusted it. They felt it, because that's just perfect in how it maps into today's title. Before we get then, and I ask you just a little bit more, let's just welcome in some of our guests, or our audience even. They're kind of our guests, aren't they? Because we do co-collaborate and co-create these conversations between us, don't we? So we've got T.C Aeelah. Hello to both of you, and thank you for being here. And greetings from Vienna, where I am right now, because I trusted myself. Well, that's amazing.
Yeah. Hi, Mateja. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mateja's story is really great. Yeah.
Really? Mateja, maybe you can share some of that. If you're comfortable sharing some of it in the chat, that would be wonderful. Then we've got a hello from Isabel Pina.
Hi. No, Isabel. Yeah, exactly. Hi, Isabel. Thank you for tuning in.
And we got an and it's the same Isabel.
Yeah.
And then we've got Colin Fribbins, who I actually know from Yo ho. I say yo ho with a little bit of Colin Fribbins. In the past, Colin has been a bit of a, what's the word? He's intellectual. He's articulate, and he's also he likes to troll shows from time to time. So, I need to pay a bit of attention to you, Mr. Fribbins. But hello, yo-ho. We've also got Krisha. Hello from Denmark.
Hi, Krisha. Hello.
So welcome aboard. So do you know what your topic is for your talk at the Higher Self Expo yet, Tania? Are you able to little taster?
The title. Let me tell you. I never sort of seem to get the title, but it's all about being a living experiment of embodying isness. And what does that mean? Of really walking my talk. As I have shared abundantly, let me just tell you the title. I'm looking it up here. A living experiment of embodying isness. Yes, exactly. That's it.
Wow.
So I've chosen in my life to surrender so completely that I don't need to remain attached to anything I have been, known, or done. And of course, this has been achieved by many years of bringing back home all of the parts of me that were unacknowledged, unloved, not listened to, etc. And through that,
crying here. Sorry, I'm just
yeah.
Hang on a second.
And through that experience,
I need to cry ahead of time. Sorry, Tania. Go on.
We usually do cry, don't we? Or laugh.
Go on.
When we have our enlightening conversations each month. So through bringing back home what one usually calls the dark side, and also acknowledging the light side, so the separation between what I perceived myself to be as just a small human self, and then realizing that I am much more than just that. I am human and divine as one, and in that I am something else, which really has no specific name to it. Maybe we can come up one day with a name of what it is to be an embodied human. So a human that is living from the soul experience of what it can be like to now not be in duality, not be perceiving the world as something full of enemies and hardships and dramas and so on, and to be perceiving from a perspective of neutral balance, where of course we are aware of all of the distortions, but not necessarily going towards any of them, not affiliating to any of them, and then creating within this third dimensional physical reality something so much.
I'm so sorry.
Bless you.
I'm crying. I'm sneezing.
So that's good. It's just flowing, right?
Something is clearing from me. It's like you're a download, Tania.
Yeah. So yeah, and really it's downloading into not really into third dimension, but within third dimension, I would say, a multidimensional life. Therefore, a life that seems many times to be magic, seems many times to be impossible, but it is, because I'm living it. And on the other hand, interacting with the world around me, and not being goody two shoes all the time, sometimes having to be assertive, having to set firm boundaries, and you know what I mean, but also flowing from that space of equanimity, I call it, of balance, where the heart is at peace. And even when something outside comes that is eventually challenging that peace, knowing that that is the truth.
Yeah.
And that everything else are waves, but those waves are passing. Nothing in this world is permanent. And knowing that and living it, whether it's wonderful or whether it's horrible, it doesn't matter. Knowing that, keeping that knowingness firm that everything in this world is a passing wave, yet staying in that pure, peaceful balance inside is what I share, what I live, and what I'm going to share at the Higher Self Expo as well, in terms of how, for me, science and spirituality have married.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And that is a really good question, actually. You know, right at the start, before you were telling us about your reality, you know, your question of like, how do we call the human that that is in that state? You know, what is the name of that human that can be in that state of isness, that can ride the wave, knowing that this too shall pass, and everything that we see around us is non-permanent or impermanent. I'd like to put that out to, you know, anyone that's watching, actually, you know, like, what would you call the human that can come in or to be in full consciousness, full embodiment? That was the word that
exactly. Embodying expanded consciousness, basically living it, not just speaking about it, not just reading about it in books or writing about it, it's living it, being
like, a fully awakened human.
Yes, exactly.
It's interesting.
And we call it a divine human, but everyone is a divine human. So
it's interesting that you make that description or determination, and saying, you know, not just somebody that's talking about it or like writing about it, somebody who's actually doing it. Because I like to learn about it and talk to people about their experiences of it, and yet I know that I'm not in that state yet. I maybe never will be, but who knows?
Who knows? It doesn't matter, right?
But I recognize it fully in you.
Thank you.
And it's quite magical when you're with people who are in that state, because it's really obvious as well. If you're not there, you know, there is something. When I've been around other fully embodied humans or awakened humans, I often feel things come off them as a bit of an empath. I feel something like there is a healing event going on, even if you're not meant to be doing it or not intending for it.
Not doing anything specific around that. Yeah.
We've got a few people who are saying hellos. So we've got Carl Munson. That's my hubby.
Thank you, Carl.
And I would like to just thank him for his technical expertise at the start, as it all seemed to fall apart. Then we've got Primoz.
Hello, Primoz. From Slovenia.
Hi, Primoz. How are you?
Hello, Primoz.
Thanks for joining us from Slovenia. We've got Andrew Fribbins, the brother of Colin Fribbins. Saying hello.
Hi.
Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Hi, Andrew.
Unless I'm mistaken, the two of them are probably still in the UK, unless they've managed to escape, but who knows? So yeah, that's our question to the audience. What would you call that kind of human experience? We'd be interested to know. But anyway, so that's your topic for the Higher Self Expo. But, you know, leading up to that, let's talk about the title for today's show, which is Going Beyond Proof to Trust.
Yeah.
Andrew's just saying hi to both of us, so that's very kind of him. Hi.
Hi.
So going
hi,
Andrew.
Andrew.
Trust. What was it that kind of, how did that title arrive? You know, how did that come through you?
Related to living in this 100% trust in our intuition, in our knowingness, and related to exactly that science, hardcore science requires proof, or is always looking for proof of something so that it can be considered true. So if something cannot be repeated or replicated more than once in a certain set environment, then it cannot be considered scientifically proven, and it cannot then be considered true. And the fact is that our essence, our soul, does not work that way, because it is happening in each moment. It is absolute presence. Sometimes it is irreplicable. something happens exactly in this way right now, because all of the circumstances are here now, and they won't be exactly the same ever again. And I've experienced this multiple times, and I experience this every single day, that things are the way they are now. And
Yes.
me knowing that now doesn't necessarily need to inform my future, and it does not need to come from the past. So in a sense, it's letting go of a stuck or ready-made belief system that says that for this to happen, this has to be in place. So releasing that so that something new can show up. Like even when we, for instance, are looking for a solution for something. If we're stuck in trying to figure out things from our way of doing or thinking normally, then we are not allowing a new possibility to show up from our expanded wisdom. And then again, because this happened right now, it doesn't mean that this is the whole truth, and that this means that every time this shows up, I'm gonna just need to do the same things and it will happen in the same way. It is absolutely not true.
Yeah.
So many of the things that happen in everyday life can really not be proven scientifically, because living in the now moment is unique.
Yes.
Each moment.
Yes. Yes, I totally get you. And we've got our first answer in, actually, from Matea. She'd say, I would say a human, like the embodied human, is someone who is fully aware of his or her own vastness beyond time and space.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes.
So in one word, what would that be? A timeless human?
Yeah, timeless human. Well, like it's someone. I mean, like beyond time and space. That's kind of omniscient, omnipresent. It's
so there. That means each one of us is God also, but it's being aware of that.
The God consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Being aware that we are all of it in a drop of consciousness. And each one is all of it in a drop of consciousness. And no one is not that. Of course, one might not be fully aware, and there is where the difference resides. So coming into awareness is a gradual thing until it collapses, like sort of it achieves critical mass and collapses. And that can happen in any lifetime. And so one thing I would say, and because of what you were sharing just now, which is so one thing I love about you is your clear honesty. You're always so vulnerably honest in your sharing, and that's amazing. It's just fantastic. And the thing is, many times we have so many preconceived ideas of what it's gonna be like when we collapse into one. And that many times keeps us from experiencing it more.
Yeah.
Because we have ideas of, it has to be this, we have to be this and that way, and be able to cross walls and materialize gold lingots in our hands and all sorts of things.
That definitely helps us, wouldn't it?
But then when you look at it from beyond the limited view of the human, you realize that we're materializing gold every single day. Because we are master creators, all of us.
Yeah.
Of course, we might be materializing base metal, or we might be materializing gold and diamonds, not necessarily in the form of stones or in the form of the metal, but it's happening all the time.
Yes, and I always like to think that what's going on in my immediate life is a microcosm, or a microcosm of what's going on outside. And so, when I notice the people coming into my life, I think, wow, this is probably happening to other people more and more, or similar kinds of things are happening. I remember as a child, I think I went to Margate Beach, which is a pretty awful, well, not an awful beach, but a pretty typical English beach, and finding these cards with fractal designs on them, because this is like late 70s, early 80s, and I found these fractal pictures, and I started collecting them, and I used to be mesmerized by the fact that one picture could expand indefinitely, and also what's the opposite of, well, shrink indefinitely.
Contract.
Yeah, contract and expand. And I used to just sit looking at these patterns, and at some level of being, I recognized it. And in this week just past, I spoke with another Higher Self Expo presenter, who is William Linville, who is a walk-in, so has an understanding from a completely different perspective. And then about an hour later, I had a meeting with a young lady that I'd done a reading for about a year ago. And she contacted me, and I was so shocked by what I heard. But she had a full spiritual awakening about a month after I'd spoken to her, following it's funny because another person in the Higher Self Expo had a full sudden awakening following ayahuasca. So this person's had a full awakening following mushrooms, and the whole life, like the life has changed. And it's just been really amazing for me in this last week. My consciousness has been really linked in to other people's expanding consciousness, or suddenly expanding consciousness. So I think it's delightful that that's what we're talking about today. I just wanted to share that. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, of course, it's fantastic.
Andrew Fribbins has said, humans exhibit a number of biological adaptations to the great variety of environments they occupy. Yes, I also agree with that. Also to the various situations one finds oneself. Yeah, and Andrew, I wonder, where do you find yourself? Where does one find yourself right at the moment? Where are you based? What are you up to? And how are you adapting to things biologically at the moment? Thank you for that. And Matea is sharing with us, saying, yes, I materialized this abundant living in Vienna, not needing any money. It is sure beyond any of my previous beliefs. That's fantastic. I love hearing stories like that. I think it's safe to say you and I have manifested that from time to time too, haven't we? Is that right, Tanya?
Oh, yeah. A lot.
Yeah, definitely. It is possible. I've not managed to do it long term. I've managed to do it in pockets, where stuff has kind of arrived at just the right moment. It's like, whew, that was lucky. Sorry. So yeah, when I had those experiences of connecting into people who have an altered perception, I guess using Matea's definition, somebody who is fully aware of his or her own vastness beyond time and space, connecting into those guys this week, and obviously with you, makes me think that this is going on the planet, planetary wide, and it's speeding up. What
I feel that. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that it's happening, yes, more than ever before. In our lifetime, at least. Also, I feel that we need to keep a grounded perspective. So, on one hand, to not create any limits or limitations on the possibilities that are now arising for massive awakening. That's one thing. And on the other hand, not expecting anything. So knowing that anything really is possible, and it is, depending on each one's perspective on the way we are creating our realities. And knowing that still a vast majority of humanity is not awakened in that sense of knowing that we are co-creators beyond time and space, and being okay with that.
Yes.
So balancing our sense, and what I feel is happening a lot, is that all of the people who have somehow awakened to that, so more or less, they can be living it 100% fully, or they can really know it from within and be integrating everything that isn't on the way.
Yeah.
And all of the people who are on that are coming together. And why? Because it is in that pool of expanded consciousness that when we join it, that it then creates sort of like an atomic bomb kind of effect, where,
like a bomb.
Yeah, where more more of that consciousness, because it's all it comes together. So it's not just islands here and there.
Yeah.
It's coming together. So more and more of us are being put in touch with each other, to create loving bonds that are beyond prejudice, beyond jealousy, beyond competition, etc. All of these things that are clear, so that it becomes cohesive.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of cohesion in coherence. There is a lot of cohesion in what we call the dark energies, in what we call the nonsensical.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cohesion there. There's a lot of cohesion in drama, a lot of cohesion in proving that suffering is the way, and all of these things.
Yeah.
But so far, there hasn't been as much cohesion as I am seeing now between all of those who have been awakening throughout all of the years, to culminate now to a coming together and to collaborations that create massive, massive ripples of more awakening.
Yeah.
Because the thing about awakening is very, very simple. It's just realizing that when we come into the balance within and realize that duality is just a game, so then we can play it from a conscious standpoint. What happens is that we realize that there's no point fighting against each other. There's no point going out killing each other. There's no point judging all the time. There's no point having a self-defensive attitude. There's no point living like a warrior, etc. Then all of a sudden, a lot of the habits that we have created in survival mode collapse through that awakening. And you realize that love is really what makes you feel fulfilled, but the love that comes from within. It's not the love that people have been seeking outside. It's allowing that love to be realized from soul to human. And I call that eternity. Unconditional love is really not conditioning ourselves to a specific time and space where things are limited. It's realizing that in our eternity, nothing is more relevant than being a clear space of isness. That is unconditional love.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling that. We've got a couple of comments that have come in. I just quickly want to acknowledge, and then I'd like to talk to you about that sort of eternity, because something else that has come up this week for me is the idea that like humans are kind of like tuning forks. I've come across people this week who've experienced vibrations in their body, in their ears, not just like normal, like ringing their ears, like lots of people talk about, but like full on sound bowls, and what they call those crystal bowls, singing bowls.
Yeah.
That kind of vibration in their ears, and somebody who's actually had sort of a vibrational sound coming out of their mouth, like their words almost sound like vibrations. But I've come across this idea of like people are almost ringing at the moment in a different way. So I'd like to touch on that and find out your thoughts about that. And tying that into going beyond proof to trust, because I'm sure there is a link, because as with all of our chats, they always seem to link in some way. Now, the Fribbins brothers have sent in a couple of things. Sorry, Colin's answer was up on the screen for ages, and I didn't want to take it off because I didn't want to like seem to pull it down before having a chance to chat about it. He was saying answers can be a prison to oneself. I think that's in response to what I was, asking about what they were going through. And Andrew, his brother, is saying in the UK cannot get to Gozo at this time due to COVID issues. I think that's where, is that where you've got your holiday home? I think it is. We're fine health-wise, have both had 2 jabs. One has to take things in their stride. I agree. I think we really do need to absolutely sort of take things, in our stride and just think, okay, that moment has passed. Now we're in this now moment, what's next, one needs contentment in life. And I would absolutely agree with that. And I hope you really are experiencing that, Andrew. But the answers can be a prison to oneself. What would you say about that? Tania?
Well, it really comes into what it ties into what I was sharing before, which is us thinking that we know things from the past as well, thinking that we have an answer, that we already know how to do something, and so we know how to deal with a situation. That can be imprisoning. So really holding on to knowing, like, I have all the answers in a sense, will be a prison. It will keep me from finding out each moment, discovering the more that there is, and never knowing, really, because it is not possible to know the all that there is within the consciousness of a human body in physical form. It's possible to tap in to pieces at given moments, and of course the more embodied that is, the more it is constant. But it doesn't mean knowing everything about everything everywhere, which would not be conceivable and necessary. It's just like it's just like having Google inside. So if I've got a search engine inside,
all the spyware and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's in place. It's all in place. So if you've got a search engine inside where you can just tap in what you need to know in the moment, you'll do that, and you'll know what you need to know, and then you let it go. Because whenever you need to, you can just type it in once again. Basically, it's like being that constant search engine if you need it. But it's there. It's just there. You don't need to do anything about it. If you need to an answer, you will search it. It will come up for you for that moment. So it's not the same. The difference between Google and our own search engine is that it's unique for you, and it brings you the perfect answer for that moment, for your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andrew's just saying, if it's on Google, it must be true. Haha. You haven't lost your sense of humor, have you? That's great.
Well, yeah, we both know it's not exactly like that, is it? But so that's why I don't like to call our inner one Google. It's like something else.
That really does tie into the idea of trust, because there are these moments in time where, we might be told something is true, and it just doesn't sit right with us. And those are the moments where we actually need to trust ourselves.
There. Exactly. Like, really trust the feeling. So sometimes people ask me, I've got this conundrum. I don't know what to choose, this or this. And I always say, feel it. Feel it. Don't think about it. you don't know, because the thing is not here right now. So you're choosing, imagine you're choosing between two things that are going to be in your future, in your immediate future. So you're not living either one or the other, but your heart knows. So if you just silence, quieten down and feel, your heart will tell you which one is the one that will take you that way, which is the way of the soul, which is the way of love. It will also tell you, and you can choose to go that other way, which is the way of survival. You can just choose. So really, from soul perspective, there's no wrong answer. There's just where you want to be at.
I like that, because a lot of the time when you hear people talking about the polarity from love, they talk about the polarity between love and fear, or love and hate. But actually, when you put it in terms of love versus survival, like the path of love or the path of survival, that's almost kinder, because if you are concerned just with your survival, of course there are going to be all manner of extra emotions, like fear
and so on,
all sorts of things, because that's, I think, isn't that one of the premises of the conscious mind, is to provide you with that survivability, because we're not trusting in what our unconscious or what our soul is saying. Is that how it works?
Exactly. It's just, then you are provided with it. Basically, it's sort of, you're a pool of experiences. So either you're going to tap into what comes from past experiences, and that's survival. And so you will go that way and you will have your experience. And really, for anyone in this lifetime or in the future, it will boil down to this: until it's hurting enough, one will not awaken. That's just what it boils down to. So if a person has one foot here and one foot there, it will be painful.
Yeah.
It will be painful, but it might not be hurting enough. So therefore, the 2 feet won't go towards the surrender, because it's not hurting enough. So the people who have real hurt and real awakening, in that sense that it hurt so much that they said enough, have it a bit easier. Isn't that strange? It's sort of like there are all of these contradictions with life in physical form. And one of the contradictions is that the ones who have it harder awaken more fully, more easily.
Yeah. I totally resonate with you when you say, often the change doesn't happen until it gets too painful. When I think about all of my big stretches as a person, and I'm not talking about, like yoga stretches.
Yeah.
All of my big stretches and leaps forward have all occurred because something got too painful for me. And then I just, like, part of my body just had to collapse. And not my body, but, my belief systems. I just had to collapse.
Yes.
Whether it was just, okay, that's it, I'm done with smoking.
And it could be your body, your health collapsing for you to feel it.
Yeah, that has happened. Definitely. Yeah. So
I will be sharing a lot about that in the Higher Self Like Expo, about my health collapsing in all sorts of ways, and how I actually came through all of those experiences. Because in a sense, it's looking at the science and then also going beyond the science into trust. So going beyond what had been proven for other humans to be true and safe, and realizing, wait a minute, but it's not working. Or is this working? This is working. That can go that way, but this is not working. I can't go that way. And trusting. So trusting when it's working the way that it's usually meant to work, fabulous, go that way. If it's not working the way it usually works for everyone else, don't go that way.
Right. I'm going to pick your brains a little bit more. Now, I suspect I know the answer to this, but just having said that may well mean that I might have egg on my face, because I might have got something completely, this is just from my own perception. When you're saying, things that have to get a little bit difficult for us to actually make a break or have a breakthrough, is this what's going on in the world right now, from your opinion, from your perspective?
Oh, absolutely. Like
people are feeling
big
pain
time.
no one.
So what happens is not that some force of whatever has brought this massive kind of suffering upon humanity. It's actually the other way around. And that's the way we do it in our own life. So basically, we live unconscious and go around in circles in the rat race, in that little constricted kind of consciousness of ready-made answers and rules and boxes and all of that stuff. And we go that way until it just becomes unbearable, and something happens in our lives that sort of catapults us into the awareness that there must be another way. There just has to be another way. And so basically humanity, mass consciousness, humanity as a whole, has brought upon itself this catapult, but not because it's sort of like humanity is being punished or anything like that. No, it's just a consequence. We live in the world of cause and effect. So this is just the consequence of everything that has been set in motion for the last centuries, basically, because we have come into such a rushed kind of mode that, isn't it amazing that the whole world had to stop? Like, I mean, it's just fantastic, and it's just a consequence. It's the effect of the causes that have been set in motion by humanity as a whole, to come to a point where massively so many humans have been put in the face of, okay, now stop and be with yourself.
Yeah.
And now what?
Yeah, well, I mean, working as a coach, I as you do as well, I've been very aware of some of the difficulties that people have been going through, and a lot of people have found it very hard being stuck with their partners all of a sudden, because for most of the time, we are rushing around, each having our own lives, and all of a sudden you're together. And so there's been a lot of, in my experience, over the last year, there's been a lot of people kind of shuffling around, almost like pieces on a chess set, finding out where they need to be. Because a lot of people have found that they're not actually in the right place, or not actually with the right person, not with the right company. And they're not right with themselves either. People are also, I'm getting lots of inquiries about people who are considering new kinds of ways of working, because whatever's going on, there's that recognition that actually, that wasn't working for me.
There you are. I mean, if you got a husband or a wife that you can't live with, what the hell are you doing together? I mean, and the thing is, and that's a pattern.
There are millions of people that are actually in relationships like that, where they actually really don't like each other.
And I myself have been in that place before, and I did exactly what most people do, which was get myself busy with work.
Yeah.
So I used to be so busy with work and out of the home so much that I would not be faced with the inevitable fact of realizing that my relationship was just a shit house and nothing was going right. And I myself was absent from my own existence, because I was always busy outside of me, outside of my immediate perception of self-respect, etc. So, and this is what most people do is, okay, it's not working very well. Let's get ourselves busy, and then we will not notice. But the whole world was made to stop and notice. That's just fantastic. It's, of course, super painful because there's lots of stuff that wasn't really working. And it's hard to acknowledge that and to have the humility of realizing where you are the creator of that. Where is it? It's not the other person's fault. It's no one else's fault. Actually, it's not even your fault. It's no one's fault. It's where is your responsibility in the creation of this specific relationship, this specific job, this specific environment? You are there, so you have to have been responsible somehow for this have to have happened. And if you don't stop to realize and acknowledge that, and which aspects of your personality keep on playing out and protecting you, so in survival mode, because you're behaving like a victim, constantly being the victim and the abuser and playing this game, and then you stop and you realize, wait a minute, what am I creating here? I'm making my life hell and everyone else's life hell just because I didn't choose to take full responsibility for who I am and who I choose to be in each moment. And who I choose to be is not necessarily like, if you're coming from your soul perspective, it's not something formatted. You have no idea who you are. Constantly you are discovering, and you'd never know because you're not tied into a specific type of personality or something. So, and you don't need to know really, because what's the point? It's a continuous discovery, moment to moment. What is that? What is that I am? And not needing to know that.
I love that question that you've asked. There's a few things I want to pick up on, if I may. So, I love that last thing that you said. What is that I am? Because you hear a lot in spiritual circles. I am that I am.
There.
Not what am I that I am? It's an interesting little twist there. But where I'd like to just take you back for a moment, there might be people that listen to this who are thinking, hang on a second, there's been lots of misery going on this planet. People I know have died, and they might take offense to the ideas that we've all sort of co-created this together, and that their loved ones have passed on as a consequence. Is there another way that we can think about it that might help them understand where that's coming from?
Everyone is
on board with this.
If someone is taking offense, then they should stop and find out why. Anything we take offense of means we feel guilty about. And actually, shame and guilt are the tools that the victim consciousness within us uses to keep us caught in prison inside. Yeah. So if someone takes offense on something, then that's a great opportunity to not go outside and try and say, what are you saying? Why are you? Yeah, exactly. No, it's to stop and saying, wait a minute, I'm feeling offended. Right. So let me see where this is taking me. And of course, if there is something like in daily life, if at any point someone does not respect us, in that case, it's the time to be clear and honest and straightforward and say, look, this is not okay, this kind of behavior, etc. So I will not be condoning this kind of thing anymore. That's one thing. So that's taking offense, but not being carried away by it. It's realizing, wait a minute, where do I have to set things straight? Yeah. Now, on the other hand, taking offense with something you're listening someone else saying, with someone's point of view, which is not directed at you.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that going on right now, isn't there?
There is. And there's a lot of entertainment with people. People feel very entertained fighting against each other and point proving. And it's just an effort to no avail, because each person is entitled to their point of view. So I'm entitled to mine, you're entitled to yours, and each of the listeners is entitled to theirs. Now, if they feel offended by our point of view, that is not my issue or your issue, it's their issue.
Mm.
And then just another thing, many people have passed away. Maybe it's time to address the issue of death and to look into that and to realize how attached people become and depend on those people that pass away, or depend on the status quo of having that person alive to make sense of things, or that life only makes sense if all of those people are there in place. And to maybe find a new way of perceiving life and death. Because if we look at nature all around us, nothing is alive constantly. Everything is going through cycles of life and death. Everything.
Yeah.
Inside of ourselves, our cells are always transmuting, transforming. Outside, all around us, nothing in physical form is permanent. So maybe it's time to start realizing that we can deal with the issue of death from a whole new perspective.
I love that.
And I don't really want to go too much into that, but just leave this here. And also with the vibrations you were talking about before, we are all vibratory beings. I mean, vibration is what makes up the whole of the reality we perceive, because it's all about how all of the atoms come together to create some sort of a solid form, which seems solid but isn't, because over 90% of us is empty space.
Yeah, I feel it.
It is
here sometimes.
Yeah. And it's the vibration. The vibration. Each of us is a vibratory being. And it's those vibrations that create time and space, and that also create all of our perceived reality, and that create our physical form, and that create what we emanate. So depending on also where our consciousness is coming from within us, or actually from the whole universe through us, then our vibration, the way we vibrate, is different. And also depending on how in tune we are with the earth itself, which in a sense, we are just replications of the earth in our physical bodies. We are replicas of the earth. And how in tune we are with that will also influence our vibration, the vibration of the sound that all of our cells make when dancing with each other. Really, the whole universe is a vibratory creation. So there's nothing that is not vibration, that is not sound somehow.
Tania, you've gone really deep. I really love this about you, that I can just kind of in the moment throw any question at you. You have some unflappable and very deep sort of universal wisdom that just kind of flows through you. I really loved what you had to say there about death, because I actually think that is huge. Like we don't really learn about death in our culture. I remember when my grandparents died, when my grandfather died at 11, you know, the whole family decided that my sister and I were too young to see a dead body. So we couldn't say goodbye to him, and we weren't allowed to his funeral either. And it's just like, hang on a second, you know, it's a life and death, you know, life and death are part of the same cycle. When I was living in Bali, I loved how the villages and small towns, they would have like one day a month, I think, or one day every 2 weeks, you know, a specific time to worship everyone who had, or to say goodbye to everyone in the village that had died in the previous like 2-3 weeks. And so there weren't separate funerals. There was these like village-wide funerals, and people would come together to almost have a party, and they would start the women would be making crafts and things out of corn or wheat or some kind of bamboo probably, and grasses, you know, little effigies and things like that. And they would all celebrate and say goodbye together. And everyone was in there. They lived their lives with each other. Death touched them all the time, you know, from, you know, maybe killing the animals that they actually eat, you know, rather than going to a butcher's. Like a lot of them have chickens on their compounds and things like that. But, you know, there were lots of generations living together. So everyone would like touch age. Everyone understood what it's like to be a baby and what it's like to be an old person. You know, it's not hidden. And yet in sort of the more Western or the more sort of modern civilization gets, the more we put our babies in artificial environments like creches and nurseries, or, you know, and our old people off in old people's homes and special offices for them. And it just seems like anyone that might be an inconvenience is kind of shoved away. And then, you know, everyone else that's a kind of human being or, you know, understood, that has a full function of language and comprehension, then they can participate. And in this last year, none of us have been able to participate, and we've all been separated. So I think your comments on death are really pertinent, because we don't understand death.
Yeah,
we don't. I think the closest you get to it in a modern day society is with farmers. You know, people that work on farms and they see what nature does and the cycle of nature. So I really thank you for that. And I love what you're saying about vibration. We've had a couple of other things. Andrew was just saying he thinks there's less love in the world today than there used to be. That's not my reality right now, but I can understand that it seems like that, and it may be true for you. He's also said with large numbers of flats or small boxes in the sky are a problem for many people during lockdowns, as one needs their own space from time to time.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. Because if you are somebody who's enjoyed your own space and suddenly you're locked down with someone else, it's very difficult.
It is. True.
Then
totally.
3 hearts from somebody. Tiasha. Thank you so much.
Hi, Tiasha. Thank you.
Hi, Tiasha. Where are you coming from, Tiasha?
Slovenia.
Slovenia. Okay, thank you. And Katerina Sarau is saying, so true. I am experienced that. I vibrate in different ways since I trust all in me and so many sounds that my soul has or have moment by moment, and experience death of me in all the moments that I'm transforming myself, going deeper and deeper and deeper. I added that extra one in, because that actually feels just like an induction into a hypnosis session. And coming from my, this is something I wanted to ask you earlier, actually, Tania. Is it okay to keep you on for a few more minutes?
Yeah, perfectly.
Thank you. When I trained in hypnotherapy, one of the things, you know, that we do as hypnotherapists is the induction. Like, the words we use are to switch off and possibly confuse the conscious mind, so that we're talking directly to that part of ourselves that is unconscious. And I guess the way we see it, the model that we might see it, is that a bit like on a castle. If you imagine the mind is a castle and it's got these great big castle gates and walls with turrets at the top, the conscious mind is the gatekeeper. He's the one at the door that says, sorry, that can't come into the mind. We're not going to concentrate on that. And the conscious mind is the gatekeeper, stopping anything that might disrupt us, anything that it thinks might hurt us. All experience is kind of is either allowed in or out according to the conscious mind, and whether it thinks it's safe or not. So anything that's a threat, the conscious mind will come up with all sorts of tricks and strategies. You might call it ego as well, you know, strategies to kind of get rid of it. And so when you were talking earlier, and I've lost my train of thought. Oh my God, you were talking about something earlier, and I thought that is just like what the conscious mind does against the unconscious. What was it you were saying? Oh no, it was on the tip of my tongue.
I usually have that effect on people.
But I guess if you have a look at the title, Going Beyond Proof to Trust, I mean, that is like conscious mind, unconscious mind, isn't it? It's like moving
In
out
a sense,
of
I see it differently. So, so what you're saying is, if we're going in through the mind, then we would have to do that, switch off the conscious awareness of the human self, so that you could access the unconscious and the subconscious. So what I propose and offer is a different pathway, which is coming into our expanded consciousness. So not going in through the mind, so not inducing any stoppers in there, but through the choice to come into a deeper silence within, realizing that the mind will be playing its gimmicks, and being okay with that, and observing that, and knowing that. So, but because we are the observer, so we're coming into the space within us where there is silence, and where there is compassion, where there is no judgment, so where there is a neutral balance and love, really. Not the love the mind knows. It's a really much more expanded love, because it accepts all that comes. And so coming in through that pathway, so it doesn't work for everyone, because first a person needs to practice being able to come into that space of silence within. So that's what I do with the compassionate breath. And through coming into that space, then being the observer, so knowing that the mind will be wanting to protect us, the what you call the conscious mind, in that sense, the ego, because it's been doing that all along, protecting us from all of the other stuff that seems not to be safe. That's why it's stored in the subconscious and the unconscious. Being aware of that, but then also through diving into different places in the body, wherever, because the body is a whole sensing mechanism. Wherever we're feeling unrest or whatever, diving into that, and then retrieving the memory from the feeling, but fully aware of it. So fully aware of, the mind is not allowed to interfere right now, because I'm not letting it, because I'm focused on something else. So I'm aware it eventually will want to protect me, but now my choice is to come of age. In a sense, I am now the one who is in charge of bringing all of these wounds, these wounded aspects, these parts of me that I had to create at a certain time to protect me, but that now are no longer necessary and are actually creating more havoc than peace in my life. So then I am choosing to be the parent, to be the grown-up in me, who will hold, usually children, who will hold these children. It could be teenagers and even adults, but usually it always starts somewhere as an immature, whatever, child, teenager, adult, who was immature in the sense that wasn't capable of dealing with the situation emotionally or physically or whatever. So I am now the one who is inviting, and here is a key thing, because in this process of integration, which I'm sharing with you now, we cannot make an aspect of personality come back home. It is not possible. It cannot be made to understand that it's no longer necessary. It has to be such an honesty inside that I am being so open-hearted, non-judgmental, and ready to embrace. And that is something that all of our parts, which are consciousness as well, no matter how stuck they are, everything is consciousness, which has energy to it. And that part has to feel, and this is where it then becomes really challenging. You have to be 100% genuine with, yes, now I can love you. Come. It's okay now. So it's a very conscious process in the sense of not conscious in terms of the lower mind, the ego, the survival mode. It's conscious in expanded consciousness, in which you realize that you're not limited to a certain perspective. So in that sense, sometimes eventually people will find it easier to do hypnosis, for instance, if they are not capable of coming into that space where they can be fully aware. So that's why first people practice how to do that, and then become ready to reunite gradually, because some of the things we come across when we start rounding up the troops are quite gory and scary and hard to acknowledge and accept. And many times people come across things they had no idea had happened to them. They had no idea they had done, and stuff like that. And that's where it really requires one to be so compassionate that you're not going to jump into panic or judgment of any sort, as in discounting that as not acceptable. The moment that child that is screaming for love sees that you are saying, oh my God, no, 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 this can't be true, it will retreat immediately, and it's no longer there. So it's a process of absolute love. It's really coming into love, and then but doesn't mean that the person feels all of that love immediately. Obviously, that love just starts growing and building up as each part says, yes, okay, I'll come back home. I trust you now.
Wow.
Because it's all these parts of us that don't trust us, obviously, because they were the ones in charge. They had to take care of us. How can they trust us? They can trust us when we show that we have come of age, that we are ready. And coming of age is very simply being able to love unconditionally.
Wow. I love that so much. And that really, really rings true as well. You know, given that I've got small children, I'm trying to raise them in such a way that I'm not damaging them too much, that it takes them 40 years to heal enough to even want to heal, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. I love that on so many counts, and I'd love to, you know, say this bit I loved and talk more fully about it, but I'm kind of blown away. It's so beautifully put. In fact, when I was talking to William Linville this week, he was talking about, you know, the fragments of our soul that we reintegrate. And I believe that's what you're talking about, isn't it? Soul
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes.
Every part of who we are.
Yeah.
And we do that through complete unconditional love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because even the parts that are stuck were created from soul. But then it just becomes stuck in this particular time and space frame. So it's really like we are so many holograms of ourselves happening at the same time. And the whole thing is bringing them all back together into just one whole self.
And that really, if we go back to Matea's comment from earlier, I would say a human who is fully aware of her own vastness beyond time and space. Like if you're vast in your time and space, or in time and space, you will have all of those parts of you integrated.
Exactly. Then you will realize you're not stuck in a specific point in time, which isn't even here anymore, but because everything is happening at the same time always, because time and space are completely malleable, and time and space is all happening at the same time, everything that has happened and everything that is to happen, in a sense. But we're not going to go there because that's just a bit too complex to go into right now. But in a sense, because there's different ways of putting it and really explaining it. But basically, if we realize that we are not stuck, we are not bound. There are no boundaries to who we truly are, then a wonderful thing happens. Because many times people want to, get rid of life, like get rid of being here because it's just been too painful and things like that. And once you realize that you can, when you are fully here, when you really embody that wholeness, you realize that you are boundless, irrespective of whether you are in a physical body. So you are in a physical body, but you are not bound by time and space, because this is all illusionary. What you are is beyond what you perceive, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, it does. That's amazing and beautiful and wonderfully deep sharing. If somebody that's been listening today, or even in the future, in this vastness of time and space that we call the internet, if somebody has connected or resonated or felt the tuning fork vibration of what this isness between us is in this moment, if someone has connected to us and thinks, wow, love Tania, I want to work with her, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Oh, it's pretty simple. Well, you can go to my website, which is here, inpassioncoaching.com. Send me an email. The email address, my WhatsApp number are all on my website. And or even info@inpassioncoaching.com is the email. Contact me on Facebook is T.C Aeelah with double E-L-A-H. Is this my author name? Because I also write. So I've got I've where is it? I've got a new book that's just come out. Wait a minute, let me just get it.
I've got your cards here.
Oh boy, yeah. And I'm all over the place instead of being sitting on my chair.
I can show you your new cards. These are beautiful.
There you are.
Some of Tania's cards.
So this goes with the cards. See?
Look, they're matching. Oops.
So it's in Portuguese as well for whoever. So yeah, because the cards are also inside the book.
Look what I just picked up. I love this.
So what does it say?
It says, if you knew you were an angel, would you flow and glow, or would you deny the show? Right, it's interesting. I picked this, and it matches what I'm wearing. It's perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
And
so the cards.
It's so funny because I was late for this show today.
Yeah, and for the reason is like life is asking you, are you going to flow and glow, or allow someone else to take you out of your center? And really the question is always very that. Yeah. If we keep that if we keep in tune with that and always say, okay, wait a minute. What do I choose? Just take a deep breath. What do I choose in this moment? What do I choose in this moment? It's a very simple thing to do. And it makes such a difference. Because being on earth, being a human, etc., is challenging. And it's always going to be challenging, but it can also be lived with ease and grace, depending on where we choose to be in each moment. Yeah.
Thank you. In that moment, I chose to hope, be hope. I like that. We've got a couple more comments I'd like to just share with you, and then I think it's time to thank you for your time and say goodbye. And I'd like you to think about one last thing that you'd like to share with people, but not before we've just acknowledged our wonderful audience here today. So Andrew Fribbins, I think this is in response to me saying to his comment that there's less love in the world. From his perspective, he's saying there is less love in the world. Various governments are pulling up their drawbridges to keep others out due to racism and fear. They feed the public with lies. Yep, I can definitely see that. I can definitely feel that. And the drawbridge is funny, given that I was talking about castles and how the conscious mind is a bit like that. And Katerina, lots of LKs. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Is that like
me neither?
Laughing with us because it came up when we were having a bit of a giggle.
Okay.
Matteo is saying, I can share my own metaphor for my integration. I'm the mothership who landed here on Earth. The doors are wide open and the lost children are so ready to come in. And the amazing thing is, I, as mothership, can be anywhere in the universe beyond time and space. Matteo, I love that. That's so cosmic.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Isabel has sent us an empty message, but I'm going to take that as just
beyond time and space.
Exactly. That's how I'm choosing to interpret it. So as we bid you farewell, Tania, have you got a final thought for everybody who listens to this that could help them?
I do. And it ties into what Andrew is saying. It's not about what the governments are doing or what's going on in the rest of the world. Is how is your inner world going to influence the world around you? So are you choosing to be love? That's the only thing that really matters. Each one that truly chooses to be the love for all of our parts, first of all, so that we can become that oneness here, is creating ripples of change. And before any advent of sunshine, there is always this huge storm that is brought up so that things are brought out into the open, so that people get to know things that they weren't seeing and that they didn't know about. And actually, if we were to go back a few centuries where people could kill each other and never go to jail and stuff like that, I would question if there is less love in the world now than there was, for example, in the 1500s, when there were all of these ships taking slaves across the ocean and stuff like that. So there is neither less nor more. The thing is, where is your heart? Where is the love in you? And that is your service.
Wow. Thank you very much once again, Tania. Just to remind everyone, Tania is a host for Europe and also a guest speaker at the Higher Self Expo, which is taking place on the 17th and 18th of July. Thank you once again, dear friend. Look forward to
you.
Stay on the line because I'm just I want to finish up and have a kind of virtual hug with you as the credits roll. Anyway, lots of love wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed it, please feel free to share it with anyone that you think will like it and enjoy it and get something from it. But anyway, lots of blessings from me.
Thank you.
And Tania, to you, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, then why not support today's guest at the Higher Self Expo in July 2021? The Higher Self Expo is a worldwide 24-hour event with 33 guest speakers who are all sharing their wisdom and exploring the connection between science and spirituality. To register your place and find out more, go to www.higherselfexpo.com.